Doing it live right here, Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. Right after Guy Benson, now at 3 here on 790 KABC. And all this just before the 790 KABC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5, Mottek On Money. And stay tuned tonight at 6 for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be back on at 6 tonight with the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission, Mark Hood, spotlighting the Union Rescue Mission's amazing life-saving and transformational work to help the homeless here in Los Angeles. We'll be joined tonight by guests including Linda Palmer at Pepperdine University's Grazio Dio School of Business, Education to Business program, which is teamed up with URM. So be sure to stay tuned at 6 o'clock tonight. Right now, Mottek On Money, live on the air, also streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Good day for stocks and crypto today after President Trump unveiled that U.S.-UK trade deal and also signaled optimism for upcoming China trade talks this weekend. The Dow came in for a closing gain of 254 points. The S&P 500 moved up 33, and the Nasdaq gained nearly 200 points. The yield on the 10-year note now at 4.38%. Stocks did come down from higher highs in the middle of the day. The stock market up for the second day in a row following yesterday's rally and following the Fed decision to hold the line on short-term interest rates. President Trump said a trade deal with Great Britain could lead to billions of dollars in increased market access for American exports. Trump says the deal with the UK is just the beginning, adding that and the tax bill moving through Congress, in the president's view, make it a great time to invest in the stock market. The deal, he said, is just the start, saying the trade talks and a tax bill moving through Congress, said it was a great time to invest in our markets. 10% tariff on imports from the UK remains, according to the Commerce Secretary in today's announcement, but the U.S. will cut tariffs on auto and steel imports. The president indicates the rest of the trading partners want to make a deal, signaling the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who spoke at the Milken Institute Global Conference in Beverly Hills earlier this week, will now be traveling to Switzerland soon to speak with Chinese trade officials to work out a deal with China. I'll continue my coverage of the global conference this hour with a giant in the financial world, John CALAMOS Sr., Chairman and Global Chief Investment Officer at CALAMOS Investments. His biography written by New York Times bestselling author Joe Garner, who happens to be based here in Southern California. The biography is titled The Sky's the Limit, From Humble Beginnings to Becoming a Legendary Figure in the Investment World. John CALAMOS Sr. will be joining me later this hour. Tariffs impacting the auto business, and now Congress voting to repeal California's 2035 gas car ban. What's next on all the auto news? We'll find out with Lauren Fix tonight, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, crypto too, with Bitcoin at around 103,000 here all of a sudden. Joining us live is Gabriel Wisdom, Managing Director at American Money Management and author of Wisdom on Value Investing, based right here in Southern California too. Gabriel Wisdom, thank you very much for taking the call here today.
My pleasure, Frank, and an honor to be the lead-up batter ahead of John CALAMOS Sr. He's going to be a great guest. I just know it. Now, investor sentiment is broadly negative, despite what the president, what the administration is saying regarding the stock market. It's a great time to invest in the stock market, but investors don't believe it. Earnings season is about 80% complete, and we're seeing downward estimate revisions, lots of them, which suggests that there's still a lot of nervousness resulting from Trump's tariff situation, and the first cuts are the deepest, I guess, as Ed Yardeni likes to say. 7 sectors have outperformed in the with regard to the revenue revisions at the very top of the list, Frank. Utilities, but that's a defensive sector. And then there's healthcare and communication services and information technology. Among the worst performers, energy. Energy is very, very soft, and consumer discretionary as well. So that suggests that the consumer's pulling back a bit.
On there live with Gabriel Wisdom with American Money Management, based here in Southern California, also author of Wisdom on Value Investing. We have seen the price of oil come under pressure. It did move back above $60 a barrel here right now at $60.22, but certainly good news for anyone that's been going to the gas pump lately. Gas prices have come down, of course, not so much here in California, but elsewhere across the country. We've seen a pretty good break in gas prices, and with energy prices coursing through the economy. That is good news on the inflation front. What did you make of the Fed's assessment of the economy on inflation and jobs and the whole works, and a positive reaction we saw here today?
Well, it's interesting, Frank, because the Fed is in a difficult position. On the one hand, the U.S. labor market is clearly pretty strong. We got the jobless numbers, and they're good. Companies are not laying off workers. Most of them are planning to ride out the tariff turmoil. Earnings have been mixed, as I mentioned, but a lot of downward revisions. That suggests a softening of the economy. And the stock market has begun to look beyond the current tariff crisis, looking out 6 to 12 months and discounting all of this, and then counting on the continued AI revolution, lower energy costs, maybe the cheaper U.S. dollar, maybe renewed Federal Reserve easing in the back half of the year. So Chairman Powell's in a difficult spot. Not a good time to reduce rates just now, but I understand why he's getting pressure to do so.
All right, the other big story today, crypto coming to life here with Bitcoin surging above $102,000, right now close to $103,000, touching the highest level seen since late January when Bitcoin hit an all-time high around $108,000. The world's largest cryptocurrency moving higher today on this trade deal with the U.S. and the U.K., and also Coinbase, publicly traded company, announcing today that Coinbase has a deal to acquire options platform Deribit for nearly $3 billion. That also seemed to help boost the crypto sector today. Of course, on this program, we speak to the biggest fans of crypto as well as the harshest critics. I know you observe what's happening. Give us your reaction to the big move in Bitcoin and the latest crypto news here.
I think the implications are pretty favorable. More resilient corporate institutional capital support. We're seeing a little less volatility, but Bitcoin fell dramatically in the days following the reciprocal tariff announcements, but it's resilient. There's an accelerated supply squeeze from time to time as public corporations continue to buy some Bitcoin. And then there's talk about this Genius Act, the bipartisan guiding and establishing national innovation for U.S. stablecoins, or Genius, as the acronym goes. And the Senate Banking Committee is arguing over whether it's good enough at this point, but they want to rein in the abuses here. They want 100% reserve backing with U.S. dollars and short-term treasuries at Coinbase and these other wallets, and they want payment stablecoins to be regulated. So this is all good, I think.
Very interesting. Just attended the Milken Institute Global Conference this week, and one big speaker after another, including Jensen Huang with NVIDIA, speaking to Michael Milken at the conference a couple of days ago. We did see that pop in NVIDIA stock yesterday following his comments at the conference here in Beverly Hills. And NVIDIA stock today moving higher again by 31 cents at $117.37. NVIDIA roaring back from its recent low. What do you think of the Magnificent One now?
Well, there's talk from the Trump administration about rescinding any of the curbs that were embedded in President Biden's CHIPS Act that were aimed at slowing the AI race. That's very favorable for NVIDIA. It's a positive for Qualcomm as well. So I think that accounts for NVIDIA's strength. It's certainly a minor positive, at least, for technology in the whole.
Very interesting, and certainly folks can access the entire interview with Jensen Huang on the Milken website. NVIDIA founder and CEO Jensen Huang serving up a pretty blunt take on the job market, as was noted by Yahoo Finance and other outlets, including this one here, of course. He said, "You will not lose your job to AI, but you will lose it to someone who uses it." I remember he famously was quoted as saying just a couple of days ago. So we are watching that. And what about the other tech names, which have also seemed to have made a comeback?
You know, I think they all hold great promise here, Frank. Apple, for example, has invested a good deal of money, $500 billion, in AI data center servers, Apple TV Plus production, so forth. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, making big investments in AI. Even SoftBank, Eli Lilly, some of the more traditional kinds of companies, the utility companies, getting involved in AI and data. And so I think the Magnificent Seven could be magnificent again.
All right. We saw gold hit a record high not too long ago. Right now, hovering at around 3,300 an ounce, 33.23 and change here at last check. What's your view on how gold has been doing lately?
Gold's up about 29% year to date. Compare that with what we often refer to as liquid gold, oil. Oil's down 24%. And the reason gold is so strong is that investors have been buying it. Central banks have been buying the yellow metal over uncertainty about the tariff agenda. But I think the surge also has driven up the price of jewelry. And so there's been a sharp downturn in jewelry purchases. According to a Bernstein analyst that I was reading earlier today, this supply-demand push-pull suggests that gold could trade somewhere above $3,000 an ounce, but not above $3,500 an ounce, unless the price of jewelry stabilizes or demand increases. So gold may be stuck in a trading range right here.
That's interesting. Some houses predicted it'll be over 4,000, so that is very interesting. And speaking of record highs, Netflix. We haven't talked about Netflix much, but that stock has been hitting record highs lately. Right now, pulling back nearly 11 today at $1,144 and change. Netflix has roared to life recently and just coming off a record high here.
Yes, it has. And people want to be entertained, and they're not comfortable about paying for it. You know, Larry Fink at BlackRock wrote in his year-end letter about a $68 trillion investment boom that's coming, and a lot of that occurs in entertainment with regard to streaming, of course, technology, infrastructure, but Netflix is the clear leader in this space, and I'm not surprised that they're doing so well.
All right, what about rare earths? We had that other big deal recently, gosh, just about a week or so ago, right? The rare earths deal with the U.S. and Ukraine. Anything in that space that's getting your attention now?
Well, we need these rare earth minerals, and probably the most overlooked, not so rare earth metal is silver. I like the rare earth minerals. Some of them aren't so rare, like lithium, for example. It's abundant in the soils around the Salton Sea and in many of the desert areas in the United States, around the world. It's just difficult to mine. But silver, which has been the object of desire for the human race since the ancients, is essential in the production of electric vehicles and solar panels, 5G devices, which use rare earth minerals. But silver is considered an industrial metal and a collectible. So I'd say that probably is the top of my list.
All right, and tariffs obviously impacting the auto business. I'll be talking more about that later this hour with Lauren Fix. But from an investment standpoint, the news came out this week that Ford is hiking prices on 3 of its vehicle models as the tariffs start to have an impact here. It seems Ford hiking prices on Mexico-produced models because of tariffs. So what about the automakers here in the face of this ongoing tariff uncertainty and how they've been performing? And would you touch any of those names now?
Well, the announcement today about a UK-US trade deal, though we don't have most of the details, but the announcement was expected, and it was very, very favorable because the view from Washington has been that the U.S. is the largest economy in the world, has the biggest import market, controls the global reserve currency, the dollar, and has the most powerful military and so forth. And yes, this is all true, but not entirely so. All of this has given us an economic advantage, but America's economic leverage over, say, China has been diminishing over the past 10 years. China exports to the U.S. As a share of GDP is a mere 2.8%. So, we've got to be very, very careful with tariffs. Auto industry is a major driver of our U.S. economic engine. So I know the president is aware of this, and I'm very confident that the auto industry will do just fine by year end.
And overall, the president expressing a tremendous confidence. He flat out said, you better go out and buy stocks now. This country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up, quoting President Trump today. I don't think we've ever heard a president directly urge people to go out and buy stocks. Have you heard that before?
No, never. Maybe he read about the Marty Zweig's breath thrust signal that has occurred 19 times in the last 80 years, where, when the moving averages of the 500 companies that make up the S&P 500, the biggest companies in the United States, when 40% of them turn into 60% of them going higher in a 10-day period, which we have right now, the market has been significantly higher by year end. Let's hope it's true this year. Maybe he's been reading about Marty Zweig.
It looks like some folks did listen today, with the Dow popping 250, the NASDAQ up about 200, and the S&P 500 up 33. Any specific places at this point, Gabriel Wisdom, where you're putting money now and or taking it off the table?
The Bigger Pockets Podcast Network is your home for real estate investing.
So why real estate? We keep saying it, but the housing market is shifting more and more towards a buyer's market every week.
Guess what, folks? You can still buy real estate today.
You can buy a quality rental property today.
And build an investment portfolio that cash flows monthly.
These are my favorite markets for cash flow.
And build wealth long term.
The world has changed, but the best way to invest in real estate hasn't.
Search for the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Show anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Frank, utility stocks have been very, very strong year to date because power demand is surging even with the uncertainty around tariffs. And the exchange traded fund that owns most of the big utilities is Utility Select Sector SPDR. The symbol is XLU. And that's a decent way to buy it. Last year, the sector had a 23% gain because of data center growth. And this just, I think it was yesterday, Google announced a collaboration with an advanced nuclear project developer. And that's another big sign of the technology's appetite for electricity. And then we've got Microsoft joining forces with energy giant Constellation Energy, symbol CEG, as well as Amazon's purchase of a data center, a whole campus, and they're getting involved in nuclear as well as traditional electric power. So I like the whole sector.
Terrific. Well, Gabriel Wisdom, thank you very much for taking the call here, and look forward to our next conversation. Wish we had more time here now. Gabriel Wisdom, Managing Director at American Money Management, based here in Southern California, also author of Wisdom on Value Investing. Gabriel Wisdom, always great to have you with us here. Thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank.
And right out to the freeways we go now on 790 KABC. Frank Mottek here, back to tell you, I want to take a moment to talk about owing taxes and my trusted friends at Ultimate Tax Group. If you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, the IRS offers Fresh Start programs. Now, seize this rare chance now and call Ultimate Tax Group at 888-711-4850 and see why they're different than other firms. They'll actually call the IRS with you on the phone to gather your current account information, but also will go above and beyond and request the IRS grant you immediate protection from collections actions like bank levies and wage garnishments. Other companies charge $500 to $1,000 for the service, but Ultimate Tax Group won't. A-plus rated, 5-star service with direct access to ownership and upper management while they work on your case. Just tell them Mottek sent you. Call Ultimate Tax Group now. They're the best. 888-711-4850. Again, that's 888-711-4850. They care and fight for their clients. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. President Trump says it's a great time to buy stocks. Looks like some people took his advice. The Dow moving higher today by 254 points, 41,368. The S&P 500 up 33 at 5,664. And the NASDAQ up 190 at 17,928. The yield on the 10-year note now at 4.38%. The president spoke when the UK-U.S. trade deal was announced today and expressed optimism that a deal with China will soon be made. 10% tariffs on imports from the U.K. remains, according to the Commerce Secretary today, but the U.S. will slash tariffs on auto and steel imports as part of the U.K. trade deal with the United States. We did see the market come off its best levels of the day. The president said the trade deal with the U.K. would lead to billions of dollars in increased market access for U.S. exports, and he says the deal with the U.K. is just the start, adding that the tax bill moving through Congress make it a great time to invest in the stock market. The volatility index pulling back today by about 4.5%. The price of gold right now up about $18 at $3,323 and change. Crude oil futures hovering just above $60 a barrel now at $60.22, up 31 cents. Silver, by the way, up 4 cents at $32.66. Big day for cryptos today with Bitcoin right now hovering at around $103,000, the highest we've seen since January. That was the month that hit an all-time high, around $108,000. Right now, Bitcoin popping about $1,500 to just shy of $103K. Ethereum up $5 at $21.90. Ethereum also roaring back, and Doge at the moment at 19 cents. Taking a look at Apple shares up $1.24, back to $197 and change. We see Netflix pulling back nearly 11, coming off record highs recently at $1,144 and change. And Amazon moving higher today by $3 at $192 and change. And now the latest news on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KBC, coming to you from the Milken Institute Global Conference in Beverly Hills. And joining me now is John Calamos Sr., founder of Calamos Investments, who's out with a new book, The Sky's the Limit. The book actually written by New York Times bestselling author Joe Garner, getting a lot of attention here at the Milken Institute Global Conference. The Sky's the Limit, Lessons in Service, Entrepreneurship, and Achieving the American Dream. Mr. Calamos, thank you very much for joining us here for the conference.
Great to be with you, Frank.
Thank you for your service to the world of investments, as well as your service to the United States, having served, I see, as a major in the U.S. Air Force. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, I was stationed here in California at Beale Air Force Base.
That's wonderful. I want to hear more about that. Tell us what got you on the flight, shall we say, to investing.
Well, I really started investing just as a teenager, just as a little bit of a hobby. And then actually after I spent 5 years on active duty in the Air Force, when I got out, I decided to go into the investment area.
That's great, and living the American dream ever since. So tell us what got your attention at the beginning.
Well, really, I grew up in just working hard all the time. My family was an immigrant from Greece, so we just worked all the time. So they gave me a real strong work ethic. And so it was really, okay, what should I do? I decided I was the only one in my family ever to go to college, and I had to work my way through college, running business and things like that. So that was really what inspired me.
That's great. Well, it sounds familiar. A lot of people working day in and day out here in Southern California, hoping to achieve that American dream, which you have achieved. And tell us, what's the key to investment success?
Well, I think from my point of view, I think what really helped me was when I was in college, I undertaken a lot of philosophy courses, and philosophy was really important because one of the reasons I wrote the book too is really to inspire the next generation. And what I tell them is you don't go to college to learn what to think, you go to college to learn how to think. Critical thinking was really important to me in doing that. So it really makes you dig deep in what it did. When I was in college, I studied philosophy and really just was really interested in how Western civilization was created and all that, and that led me into the investment area.
And tell us how your military background influenced your strategy and your discipline as far as investments are concerned.
Yes, it did, because flying airplanes and everything, you better do your homework before you take off. So managing risk was, managing risk is really important when you're in the military and doing that. And in the investment area, I really looked at ways to manage risk. So I was a pioneer in convertible bonds. That was I started the first ever mutual fund in convertible bonds and did that. So that was really the foundation of starting the business.
Tell us more about that for the general audience who may not be familiar with that vehicle for investing. Tell us more about that.
Well, the convertible bond is a bond, but it has an embedded warrant in it. So the embedded warrant means that if the stock goes up, the bonds go up. If the stock doesn't go up and it goes way down, you just own the bond and you get the money back from the bond and you get the interest rates. So in the very volatile 1970s, that worked very, very well because the markets were so volatile. And really, from an investing point of view, what's really critical there is you don't have to time the market, which is very difficult to do. You're just investing in, but you have downside protection.
And we're in the presence here at the Milken Global Conference of a great guy who revolutionized the world of finance, Michael Milken. What did you learn from him?
Well, I actually, when he was trading the high-yield bonds and everything, so we got together then. I've been coming to these conferences since then, all those years. So I've learned a lot from Mike Milken over the years.
Just recently, it was the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. Tell us about your military service.
Yeah, I started in the military. I spent 5 years on active duty. I was training and flew at Beale Air Force Base in B-52s. And then they sent me to Vietnam as a forward air controller. And so I spent a year in Vietnam. So it was one of the things about being in the military too, the camaraderie and making sure everybody has your back was really important to you even running the business. The team camaraderie was very important.
How did you commemorate the end of the war recently, 50th anniversary?
Yeah, I look back at that and it was it was a good experience for me. And so it back then though, when I came home, it was really terrible here in the United States how they even treated the veterans from Vietnam back then.
That's unthinkable, but God bless you for your service, sir, and thank you for speaking with us here today. Anything else in this era of uncertainty? We hear that word quite a bit these days, market climbing a wall of worry and all that. Any big takeaways from the book that you'd like to share? And, of course, we're all looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, again, one of the things I learned in there is that whatever is going on in the government and fiscal policy, really the markets, the stock market is really the pulse of that. So understanding what's happening there is really crucial to what's going to happen in the markets the longer term. There's a lot of uncertainty here, but government policy is really important. And I think the government policy that they're trying to really execute right now is really on the right track. The uncertainty is whether or not they'll be able to execute it as properly as they can in here.
Nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force, and nothing can stop Calamos Investments. Mr. Calamos, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us here. The book is titled The Sky's the Limit, Lessons in Service, Entrepreneurship and Achieving the American Dream. The book is about John P. Calamos Sr., written by Joe Garner, New York Times bestselling author. Mr. Calamos, thank you very much for joining us here at the Milken Institute Global Conference 2025 here in Beverly Hills.
Oh, thank you, Frank. It's a pleasure to be with you here. Thank you.
Frank Mottek here. I want to take a moment to talk about owing taxes and my trusted friends Ultimate Tax Group. If you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, the IRS offers Fresh Start programs. Now seize this rare chance now and call Ultimate Tax Group at 888-711-4850 and see why they're different than other firms. They will actually call the IRS with you on the phone to gather your current account information and also go above and beyond that, requesting the IRS to grant you immediate protection from collections actions like bank levies and wage garnishments. Other companies charge $500 to $1,000 for the service, but Ultimate Tax Group won't. A-plus rated 5-star service with direct access to ownership and upper management while they work on your case. Just tell them Mottek sent you. Call Ultimate Tax Group now. They are the best. 888-711-4850. Again, that's 888-711-4850. They care and fight for their clients. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC. Let's get it into gear now and talk about the car business. Tariffs have been impacting the auto business. Today, the news came that a 10% tariff on imports from the UK remains, according to the Commerce Secretary, but the U.S. will slash tariffs on auto and steel imports from the United Kingdom. Ford this week said it's raising prices on 3 of its models produced in Mexico, citing higher U.S. tariffs on imported vehicles as one reason for that price adjustment. And now Congress has voted to repeal California's 2035 gas car ban. What is next in all this? Well, let's find out. Get some insights here from Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. Lauren, thanks very much for taking the call. I've been dying to talk to you. Give us your reaction to this latest news here, first of all.
Well, I'm really excited to see that the UK is making a deal with President Trump that will make it 10% for cars and parts coming from Europe. So that means Jaguar, Land Rover, Mini, Rolls-Royce, Bentley. There'll be other vehicles, possibly Lotus. It depends where they're built and so forth. But getting parts is good for those of us that have cars and different brands. And it's good both ways. In the end, this is a huge, huge deal. And President Trump made it happen. So I think that's the first and most exciting part of all of this. And then as far as the CRA, which you're talking about, the House that's voted to repeal the California 2035 gas car ban.
The Bigger Pockets Podcast Network is your home for real estate investing.
So why real estate?
We keep saying it, but the housing market is shifting more and more towards a buyer's market every week.
Guess what, folks? You can still buy real estate today.
You can buy a quality rental property today
And build an investment portfolio that cash flows monthly.
These are my favorite markets for cash flow.
And build wealth long term.
The world has changed, but the best way to invest in real estate hasn't.
Search for the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Show anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
So it's very complicated. So I'm going to try and break it down as simply as possible and kind of make it a nutshell for it. The House passed the bill to remove the California Air Resources Board mandate on electric vehicles and the $7,500 tax credit. Then it went to the Senate. Now, the Senate parliamentarian, which is where all the rules go through, looked at it and said, we can't take it as a Congressional Review Act. We have to take it as a rule. I know it's really complicated and it's almost confusing because it took me a while to get it all sorted out. So they then voted literally that day to make it a rule. So it's no longer a CRA, it's now a rule. Then they can remove that rule. So that is, we're waiting for a vote on that, but the past vote that we had on the House was bipartisan, 246 to 164 in favor of getting rid of these rules, because it affects a lot of states, 17 different states, and there's no reason that one state, actually it's illegal, for one state to have the rules for the other 49, which is what the California Air Resources Board is doing. I have a full longer video with a lot more detail on Car Coach Reports if you want to read that or listen to it because it's a video as well. So right now we've got the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration as well as the EPA and a bunch of other administrations trying to remove this. And it should have happened this week. Actually, it should have happened today. And I've been monitoring the registry because they put the votes out beforehand. But if this passes, that will immediately take power away from California Air Resources Board, known as CARB, which I personally find hysterical because CARB means to me carburetor, which is not exactly a good acronym. But the Government Accountability Office is also involved in this, and the Clean Air Act. And because one state cannot make the rules for the others, we know that this should pass. We're expecting a 52 to 46 vote, so that means it should pass easily. Once it passes, the mandate goes away. The tax credit goes away. There's a whole bunch of different tax credits that are a part of this particular policy. So again, I've covered this before. If you're curious and you want to look at what did pass, it's House Joint Resolution 87, 88, 89. Those are the three big ones that remove the mandate. Once that happens, the best news is that they can't bring it back again. It's not possible. So once this goes away, there won't be another administration or an ability down the road for them to put this mandate back into place, because once it's gone, it would take 3/4 of both houses in order for it to pass, which would be probably impossible.
Very interesting. We're on the air live with Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast. Looks like Tesla stock has rebounded impressively from its recent lows. It's now it closed up nearly $9 today, back to almost $285 and change. What does all this mean for Tesla, you think, and what are your thoughts on the outlook for Tesla?
I think that Tesla is going to start, well, they've revamped two of their models. I think he's going to continue to try to have more products. You remember, he's the #1 U.S. car manufacturer as far as building components here. More than Ford, more than GM, more than Honda, more than Toyota. The top car built is the Model 3, the Model Y, and the Model S have more U.S. components than anyone else. So they're not going to get hurt by the tariff no matter what happens as badly as Ford, GM, or anyone else. Once you pass the top three, you're into Honda and Toyota. And I think you're going to start seeing General Motors has already said they're going to shut down their Ottawa plant, bring more truck production here to the U.S. I think you're going to see a lot more production of parts as well as cars here, and that's good. That's more jobs. That'll help the economy. And deals like we saw today with President Trump with the UK, we've got 3 more countries supposedly coming by the end of the week. My guess, Japan, South Korea, and India. That will change everything. First ones to the table to make the deal get the best deals, and they get worse as they go on. But this will definitely help our economy. It's going to make us a very powerful country as far as financially, and that's good for everyone. Whether you voted for President Trump or not, you're going to see positive results to the economy, which means more cash available to you. And hopefully he'll pass the no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime. That's supposed to be part of that big, beautiful deal, as he calls it. Once that happens, I think you're going to see some super impressive changes when it comes to our economy.
And it looks like Elon Musk getting set to leave government after doing work with this Doge entity, the Department of Government Efficiency. So it looks like Tesla stock has gotten a lift since the news came out following their earnings report that he's going to spend more time at the head of Tesla again.
Right, but I think he's not going away completely. If you listen to what he says versus what the mainstream media says, he says he'll be back. He's taking a break to focus on his companies. There was a false story, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal, that said that they were looking for a replacement CEO. They're not doing that. That's not true. He is the brains behind the company. Much like when you see Tim Cook at Apple or Bill Gates at Microsoft, they're the leaders of the company, and he's going to probably come up with some new products. Hopefully it's not an ugly cyber truck. I don't find those to be very pretty. But the other product is doing well, and they still have the infrastructure in place. And and smartly, he's worked to deal with what they call NACS, which is the charging infrastructure. So if you have an electric vehicle of another brand, you'll be able to charge in the Tesla network. Certain ones, or you can buy an adapter. I think that's going to help people that decide to purchase electric cars, with or without the mandate, with or without the tax credit. You'll have at least another place to charge.
All right. As far as the consumer is concerned, we did hear from Ford this week saying it's raising prices already on 3 models produced in Mexico. And I believe those, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Maverick, Bronco Sport, and Mach-E. Is that Mustang, the Mach-E? Ford making that announcement this week. What about this decision to raise prices here already, given despite the uncertainty, we haven't seen the dust settle yet?
The electric Mach-E is made in Mexico. They built a plant just for it. They also build the little Maverick, which is a cute little small pickup truck that only has like one competitor. I think it's the Hyundai Santa Cruz. And the Bronco Sport, which is the smaller Bronco, are produced in Mexico. And because they're built there, they're going to have to pay the tariff. And they know that tariff is not negotiated yet with Mexico, so they're already upping the prices. I find that to be very interesting. I have said before that they raised the prices on all of their trucks, and especially the performance trucks, some as high as $20,000. If they're willing to bring those prices back down after they've made a negotiation, that would be smart. If they're going to leave those prices high, I think customers are going to get mad and they might look elsewhere.
Anything else getting your attention here? Anything else we should look for on your great podcast?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. We've just reviewed the brand new Lincoln Navigator, as well as the Ford Expedition and the Genesis GV70, all built here in the U.S. Those reviews are on my Car Smarts channel, which is all the car reviews live on. But also, I wanted to let people know that we're seeing an increase in used car prices. So if you're thinking, I'm not going to buy a new car, that's absurd, I'm going to buy a used car, note that the prices have increased about 7%. This is the first bump we've had since the chip shortage. We're noticing hikes that could push some of the smaller entry-level vehicles, like a Kia Forte, the smaller ones, by 7%.
Lauren, thank you very much. Wish we had more time, but we'll have to stop there. Be sure to check out Lauren Fix's podcast, and she does a great job here. Lauren Fix, editor-in-chief of Car Coach and the co-host of the Total Car Score podcast, live with us here. Mottek on Money, 790 KBC. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz, and at 6, stay tuned for the Just Help One radio show and podcast here on 790 KBC.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pant, host of the Afford Anything podcast. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
You should not do the 401k loan.
Reason number 4,872. Are we heading for a recession?
You'd be shocked.
Dumping it into the house?
Invest in flipping houses.
Mathematically the better option.
Paula Pant's really keeping us in business.
Because face it, money's too important to wing it. Review your budget.
Take the reins.
Sharpen your skills.
Do the thing.
Start a side hustle
that will affect your life.
Right. Afford Anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.